What's up, guys? Welcome to day 2 of NFL Draft Grades. If you missed any of the videos yesterday, go check those out. We did all of the AFC teams division by division. If you're just checking this out for the first time, what we're doing is we're going through each division, one division per video. What we'll do is we'll grade every team according to every pick, then use that to create an aggregate grade. That's based off of where the player was picked, where I had them ranked, whether or not it fit a need. And for players I hadn't scouted, unless there's a special circumstance, they're usually just given a grade of C. So let's go into the NFC East. You know what? The host city, Philadelphia, my Philadelphia Eagles. Before I get into that, can I just say, fuck off, Philadelphia. Alright, I love Philadelphia, I love the Eagles. But if I had to hear Fly Eagles Fly one more goddamn time over the weekend, I don't know what I would have done. I don't remember Chicago blaring their fight song the entire goddamn draft. Not every player needed to, not every pick needed to come up and have the Fly Eagles Fly fight song played before it. I had never heard the full thing going into the weekend. I can now say I've heard it far more times than I ever wanted to. I officially hit peak not giving a shit about that fight song when Jim Cramer came up and sung it out of key, off tune, slowly. My ears started bleeding. I was so tired of hearing it. I must have heard it 13 or 14 times over the course of the weekend. And, I mean, it kind of took away from it. I think the rest of the experience and the rest of the draft shows that the NFL should bring it back to Philadelphia next year. But ease up on the fucking fight song, please, man. Anyways, let's get into it. Obviously, every team is going to have a timestamp for you to check in the description below, so that if you don't want to listen to me go on for however many minutes before I get to your team, you can go right ahead. Let's start with my Philadelphia Eagles, the host city, and obviously the worst team in the division going by record last year. I liked the draft. Overall, top to bottom, it wasn't too bad. There were some picks I really liked and some picks I really didn't like. So let's get into it. At number 14, they got Derek Barnett, the edge rusher out of Tennessee. I'm not as low on this pick as a lot of other Eagles fans. I was actually watching reaction videos for Bleacher Report, and when they were doing their draft coverage after the first round finished, I started watching their live stream. And Adam Lefko, who is a diehard Eagles fan, got up and left. He was so angry at the pick. He hated Derek Barnett being the pick. He said he wanted anyone but Derek Barnett right before the pick went in, and it was Derek Barnett. He said he was the slow, fat edge rusher. I mean, it really is typical Eagles fan getting mad at a player before he's even put a goddamn jersey on. He was 22nd on my board. He was picked 14th. I didn't hate the pick. I gave it a B. It does fit a need. We cut Connor Barwin. Marcus Smith is atrocious. We really don't have that much in the way of edge rushers anyways. And you know what? I can't really hate on it. I think he's a good scheme fit too. If you look at the edge rushers available, Carl Lawson wasn't going to go due to injury. Taco Charlton was probably the best edge rusher available. Don't know why he wasn't the pick, but you know what? At the end of the day, Derek Barnett is still a really good player, and a guy who broke Reggie White's sack record at Tennessee going to the team that drafted Reggie White. I mean, the story writes itself. Hopefully Barnett proves the haters wrong and ends up bouncing back and shutting them up. Hard to shut up a Philly fan, I know. They came back at pick 43 and got Sidney Jones. I love this pick. Again, there are some questions due to the injury. He did blow his Achilles out at his pro day, and there is no such thing as a good Achilles injury. Now, if Sidney Jones is healthy, he would have been my number 3 player in the class. You don't get guys with his technique and his and his physicality and his ball skills in one player anymore, especially coming out of college this young. I loved the pick. Even after the injury, I graded him 16th overall. They got him at 43. I gave it an A, and the only reason it's not an A plus is because of the injury questions. They double dipped, came back at 99, and got Rasul Douglas out of West Virginia. He was 114 on my board. Pretty good value. Again, a really nice, big physical corner. This team's corners were god-awful last year. Nolan Carroll was a starting corner in the NFL last year. Let's think about that for a minute. No. Let's actually not think about that. That's a good pick. I loved it. Really good value on the pick. Now we've gone from 2 straight really good value picks to the worst value pick that the Eagles made all day, or all weekend, and that would be Mac Hollins at 118. I had him graded at 229. You drafted a 7th round player in the 4th. That is not good. Just looking at some of the names that were still available, ballpark, I don't remember exact draft order, but Isaiah Ford went late in the draft. Josh Reynolds was still there. Amba Atawa went undrafted. Demore Stringfellow, Malachi Dupree would have made more sense. Fred Ross, Noah Brown, Katie Cannon, all of these guys would have made a lot more sense than Matt Collins. Hollins apparently is a good special teamer, but why are you drafting a special team gunner at 118? Didn't really make any sense. Hate the pick. It really put a downer on my feeling of the Eagles draft for a little while, but it got picked back up again at 132 when we got Donnell Pumphrey out of San Diego State. I'm not really overly high on Pumphrey. He was 191 on my board, but as soon as the pick was announced, I knew that we had struck gold because Darren Sproles is like 33 years old. And Pumphrey is a lot smaller than Sproles. I believe Sproles is 5'6", and I want to say he's close to 200 pounds. And Pumphrey's about 5'8", so he's taller, but about 170. But we basically get Darren Sproles to tutor the next Darren Sproles. I love it. Like, even if you don't play him at all year one or just have him return kicks, having Darren Sproles teaching him, the way of the NFL is how to get by when you're a supremely small player, I loved it. Then we went back to West Virginia and got Shelton Gibson out of West Virginia. He was 195 on my board. We got him at 166. I gave it a B minus. Sorry, I don't know if I just mentioned the Pumphrey grade. He got a B plus. So Gibson gets a B minus. 195 overall. Got him at 166. I love this pick a lot more than I like Mac Hollins. I would have been okay if they had gotten Gibson at 118 and Hollins at 184. That would have made more sense to me. But you can't always get what you want. And, I gave it a B minus. I really liked the pick. I think that this really showed that guys like Nelson Aguilar is not going to make this team this year. Jordan Matthews is in a contract year. He's probably going to move on. Fingers crossed, he's terrible. It really showed that we're really trying to get some playmakers for Wentz, which we really need. Nathan Gary, the safety out of Nebraska, was the next pick at 184. Hadn't scouted him. Automatic C. We finished the draft on a high note, and I loved this pick. Went back to the University of Washington. A lot of doubling up this year for the Eagles. And we got Elijah Qualls, the defensive tackle, at 214. He was my 64th rated player, A+. He's got a little bit of consistency issues. His effort is kind of up and down. His weight is up and down, but I think when you get him in an NFL team where they're more scrutinized when it comes to keeping up with the weight program and everything like that, the diet and everything, and Jim Schwartz's defense, it's perfect. I gave it an A+. So they got B, A minus, D, B plus, B minus, C, A+. That's a B overall. Next up, the Washington Redskins. And you know what? This division as a whole drafted really well. So let's get into Washington. At 17, they got Jonathan Allen. And he was my 4th overall player. That's an A+. I don't really think I need to say anything more on that pick. Then at 49, they got Ryan Anderson, the edge rusher out of Alabama. Again, more doubling up. They must have really liked some Alabama tape this year. He was my 69th rated player. The guy at 49. I like the pick. I'm not really sure what he's going to do right off the bat because they are pretty loaded at edge rusher. But I like the pick overall. I gave it a B minus. Fabian Moreau out of UCLA, gave him a overall grade of 106. He was my he was picked at 81. He was my 106th rated player. He was raw and had a pec injury. Those two combined gave it a B minus. Overall, not too bad so far. A plus, B minus, B minus, doing good so far. Samaje Perine at 114, graded him at 134. They needed to replace Matt Jones because Matt Jones fumbles all the goddamn time. I like it. I think he's probably going to step in day one and maybe be the number one running back. I like it. Gave it a B plus. At 123, Monte Nicholson, the safety out of Michigan State, hadn't studied him. Get to see. Jeremy Sprinkle, 154 was the pick, graded 153, gave it an A, best blocking tight end outside of O.J. Howard in the class. At 199, Chase Roulier out of the University of Wyoming, I graded him 188. They needed some help on the interior offensive line, gave it an A, doing really well so far. Then Robert Davis, I believe he was a small school wide receiver, hadn't scouted him, gets a C. Josh Harvey Clemens, the safety linebacker out of Louisville, kind of another version of Sua Cravens this year. Like the pick, 230 was the pick. He was graded 205 on my board. I gave it a B plus. Again, really hitting those nice players. And then Joshua Holsey, hadn't scouted him. They got him at 235, automatic C. So the Redskins get A plus, B minus, B minus, B plus C, A, C, B plus C, which gives them a B. So 2 Bs so far for the NFC East. Like I said, whole division drafted really well. Next up, the New York Giants. They did not have a lot of picks this year. They only had 6. So let's get right into it. Evan Ingram at 23. He was 50th on my board. I gave it a C plus, not because I have anything against Evan Ingram or anything like that. Not that I don't think it was even that much of a reach for him to go round 1. It's more so that they passed on David Njoku to take him at 23 because Njoku was still there, and I thought that if they were going to go tight end, Njoku was the perfect player to go. So I gave it a C plus. Overall, not too upset with it, but just kind of cautious. Dalvin Tomlinson out of Alabama, the defensive tackle at 55. I had him graded 99th. Little bit of a reach to me. Gave it a C+. 87, Davis Webb. I had him graded at 108. Listen, I don't think Geno Smith is a long-term backup for Eli, so I'm not really sure about the pick, but, and how he's going to fit in this year. Obviously, they're going to go 3 deep at quarterback, and they're just going to groom Webb to eventually come in a couple years. I like it. B minus. He will not see the field this year. He might even not dress like Christian Hackenberg last year. Wayne Gallman at 140, and he was my 87th ranked player. I love this pick. I gave it an A. How Wayne Gallman made it to 140, I have no idea. Paul Perkins is not a lead back in the NFL. Rashad Jennings is doing Dancing with the Stars and not on an NFL roster. Everyone else in that running back room is awful, other than Paul Perkins. I love this pick. I think it makes a lot of sense. They get an A. Avery Moss, edge rusher out of Youngstown State. Caught on to him while I was watching Derek Rivers. Thought he was okay, kind of raw. Needed a lot of developing. They got him at 167. I graded him 209. That's a B. And then Adam Bisnowaty, the tackle out of the University of Pittsburgh. Some people are really low on this pick. And some people thought that maybe Adam Bisnowaty wasn't a draftable prospect. I actually thought he was pretty good. He was my 107th ranked player in the class. I got him at 200. I gave that an A. So the Giants overall get C+, C+, B minus, A, B, A, which gives them a B. 3 Bs in the division. Like I said, very good draft for the NFC East. We're going to finish it off with the Dallas Cowboys. And before I get into the Cowboys, can we just talk about Drew Pearson? I was mad when it first happened, when he came out and went off on the Philly fans. and was, talking about how Philly helped him make his career, which to an extent is pretty true. Philly was really bad and around when Drew Pearson was playing, and his rant about on behalf of all the players who wore the star before me, all of my brothers I played with, all of the players who have played since me, we select. I loved it. I actually went back and I rewatched it. I thought it was great. We need more of that. I think putting the draft in a Philly environment made that even more awesome. It felt like a WWE promo. It was awesome. I was so happy about that. And I was also actually really happy about the Cowboys draft, which puts me in a really bad position because I fucking hate the Cowboys. I'm an Eagles fan. I don't want the Cowboys to draft well, and they did. Let's get into it. First, at 28, Taco Charlton, as I said, would have wanted him in Philadelphia. He was my 15th overall player. They got him at 28. Fits a need. Randy Gregory just failed his 7th drug test. DeMarcus Lawrence is hurt and usually gets suspended as well. They really don't have much of a pass rush. Makes too much sense. I gave it an A. And then there's the Drew Pearson pick. I hope Chidobe Awuzie becomes more known for his play on the field than being announced by Drew Pearson, but that's really hard to overcome. I really like Chidobe Awuzie. He was my 46th ranked player. They got him at 60. Another A. Fuck, I am really pissed off that the Cowboys are nailing this draft so far, was my thought process at the time. Come back at 92, they get Jordan Lewis out of Michigan, a slot corner, 86 on the board, little bit undersized, has an off-field issue. Some people were worried whether or not he'd get drafted. I gave it a B- just because of the off-field stuff. If it weren't for the off-field stuff, this is another A. 133, Ryan Switzer out of North Carolina. Are you kidding me? How are these good players falling into Dallas's lap? And they've got Cole Beasley to teach the next generation Cole Beasley how to be Cole Beasley. It's kind of funny how that happened in the NFC East. You have the Darren Sproles, Donnell Pumphrey thing. You get Cole Beasley, Ryan Switzer. It makes too much sense. And it's upset. He was 163 on my board. He went 133. I gave it a B+. I really like the pick. I think he makes an impact, at least on special teams, right away. Xavier Woods, not the WWE wrestler. Ironic, because the Drew Pearson thing earlier kind of reminded me of a WWE promo. Xavier Woods, a safety out of Louisiana Tech. 181 on my board, 191 in the draft. I gave this a B+ originally. I decided to up it to an A- because I thought, wait a minute, they lost everyone in that secondary. Barry Church is gone. Morris Claiborne's gone. They were trying to trade Orlando Scandrick. They have J.J. Wilcox is gone. They had no one in that secondary. He's immediately going to come in and be a starter. I really thought he had some of the best ball skills at safety in this class. So then Marquez White out of Florida State, another corner. Really liked the pick. Hadn't scouted him thoroughly. I think I had only gotten 2 games in on him, so I couldn't give a full grade. But I gave it a C+ based on what I had saw. I think he can come in and make an instant impact. Joey Ivy, defensive tackle out of Florida. Hadn't scouted him, gave him a C. Noah Brown, my 159th ranked player, goes to them at 239. How are these players just falling into Dallas's hands? Obviously, I think Terrence Williams is really not a great player. Noah Brown is already better than Terrence Williams is now. And Noah Brown is extremely raw. I just don't think Terrence Williams is overly good. So I gave it a B+. And then Jordan Carell, small school player at 246. Didn't grade him, obviously. Gave him a C-. I gave him a C- rather than a C because when I looked him up, couldn't find him on anyone and on a lot of people's boards, and so it was really low. So I just gave him a C-. A small school guy this late in the draft. There were some still pretty good players that ended up going on draft, so I gave it a C-. Overall, I gave it a B. So all 4 teams in the division got a B overall from me. Really good draft, top to bottom, from every single team. Leave your opinions down below. Am I off on a team? Do you think that a team did better or worse than I thought? Leave your thoughts down below. As always, like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend, tell another friend, and I'll see you in a couple of hours.